We're exploring the trailside natural history of the nation's longest rail trail, Missouri's Katy Trail State Park. We're dividing the trail into manageable segments, as previewed in our series introduction video, linked below. Here in Part 1, we're riding the 77 miles from Jefferson City to Augusta, following the old MKT rail line along the Missouri River toward St. Louis. This segment alternates between stretches of shaded woodland, open views across river-bottom farmland, and historic bridges crossing the many tributary creeks flowing into the Missouri River. The river winds through a valley around 2 miles wide, carved hundreds of feet into the surrounding hill country of the northern Ozark Fringe. The railroad's route hugged the northern edge of the valley, taking advantage of the gently descending corridor through the hills, while attempting to avoid flooding and erosion along the ever-changing river channel. We've heard trail riders admiring the natural beauty of the river, but it's worth recognizing that the modern river is quite different from its earlier natural state. Once a shallow, island-laced system with multiple channels constantly shifting back and forth across the valley, it's been heavily engineered into a single deep channel locked in place by extensive wing dikes and other infrastructure. But that wasn't yet the case when the railroad was built in the 1890s. Thus, the railroad built its right-of-way along outcrops of bedrock lining the valley's edge, some of which formed tall bluffs soaring over the route, reaching 300 feet tall at Grand Bluffs Conservation Area, just east of the appropriately named Bluffton. This trail segment is entirely contained within the dolomite bedrock of the Jefferson City Cotter Formation, which dates back to the Ordovician period of the early Paleozoic era, around 475 million years ago. These abundant rock cuts expose some interesting geologic features typical of dolomites in the Ozark region. Keep an eye out for fossils preserved from the original shallow marine environment. A particular highlight for us are these huge dome-shaped stromatolite mounds, formed by colonial microorganisms like these modern examples in Shark Bay, Australia. Stromatolites are the oldest class of fossils on Earth, with some dating back over 3 billion years in the geologic record, though those along the trail aren't nearly that old. While the trailside rocks are mostly flat-lying, a sharp eye can pick out some fun local structures, such as small-scale folds locally deforming the layers. A distinct geologic highlight is Standing Rock, a freestanding pillar of sandstone around mile 120 that has been a landmark along this route since the railroad was built over 100 years ago, and it bears water-level marks from many historic floods. This feature originally formed as an ancient cave or sinkhole in the dolomite, subsequently filled with washed-in sand. This loose fill material eventually hardened into a pocket of sandstone within the surrounding bedrock. When later erosion began to strip the dolomite away, the sandstone turned out to be more erosion resistant, eventually becoming a standalone feature. Such sink fill features are actually fairly common in the Ozarks, and there are quite a few along this portion of the trail, including this dramatic one around mile 73. Others are less physically prominent, but remain geologically distinct. Here you can clearly see undisturbed dolomite bedrock to the left, with a sharp transition to a complex sink fill of rubble on the right. Not all the geology along the trail is stable. Rock outcrops continue to erode even at a human timescale, as shown by all the loose rubble collected up against this trailside fence. Rock cuts blasted by the railroad may be particularly active, as such fresher faces haven't yet stabilized in a geologic sense. In one extreme example, a rock slide at this location in April 2019 disrupted travel over the trail for several years before repairs were finally completed in early 2023. So when you're admiring trailside geology, always make sure to watch for falling rocks. River-bottom woodlands can be great birding spots too. As they say in railroading, stop, look, and listen. Joanna got nice views of this singing American redstart. And you never know what wildlife you'll see along the trail, like millipedes, snails, snakes, turtles, and this bee. Wait, no, that's a bee-mimic robber fly. It fooled us at first, too. Take the time to naturalize. Old rail corridors often host interesting plants, though botanizing can be tough in stretches like this, where the browned trail shoulders reflect not drought, but copious herbicide use. Please just use a mower, guys.
This pretty flowering vine is trumpet creeper. Hummingbirds, which love its blossoms, are a major pollinator for the plant. Look how vigorously this vine can grow up a rock face. Yet this is in fact a native vine, not an invasive one. Gardeners beware though, that vigor is probably the reason that other common names include devil's shoestrings and hellvine. More benignly, these yellow salsify plants have seed heads that resemble giant dandelions, and they're common along the trail in summer months, both as flowers and as seeds. Though they're not native, they don't seem to be an overly aggressive invasive. Like dandelions, they were probably intentionally introduced from Europe for their useful properties, including an edible, even oyster-flavored root. But please don't excavate them for a trailside lunch. One final plant. At the base of Grand Bluffs Conservation Area, where management by the Missouri Department of Conservation has contributed to an especially scenic woodland, I noticed a stand of Kentucky coffee trees. This species has unusual leaves that always make me want to think they're exotic, though they are in fact native. In winter, the big seed pods from mature coffee trees sometimes drop along the trail. They reportedly have been used as a coffee substitute, though not a very good one. But the coolest thing about these seeds is that there's a hypothesis that now extinct Pleistocene megafauna were crucial in dispersing them.
Trailside foraging is another benefit of paying attention to plants, in this case a tree load of tasty mulberries. We found more right next to this busy trailhead, but we're the only ones who noticed them. Although most of the river bottoms have been converted to agriculture, another plant lover stop comes around Piers, mile 80, where there's a nice effort toward prairie restoration. Trailside buildings are yet another source of interest. Trailhead interpretive displays generally do a good job presenting recent human history, but keep your eye out for interesting structures the signs don't mention, like abandoned barns hidden in the woods, or outstanding in their fields. This barn is especially representative of rural Missouri, with its strong lean to the right. This trail segment's plentiful bridges are a good place to stop and assess how infrastructure and nature interact. Every bridge is different, and it's fun to notice how they were built to match their setting and what makes each unique. For example, why do you think this bridge uses one set of stringers here, but paired sets here? Suggest an answer in the comments. These smaller tributary corridors are also great places to look and listen for wildlife. This segment can be completed in 2 laid-back days, with plenty of time to appreciate trailside features by stopping overnight in Rhineland or Herman. But you can also use bike-friendly Amtrak service to make a loop. To take advantage, you'll need to cross the valley and river to access the active rail line along the south side. This is pretty straightforward at Jefferson City, but more challenging between Augusta and the station stop at Washington. In our parallel series, we'll discuss the logistics of completing this bike rail loop, including how to cross the valley at both ends, highlights from Washington and Jefferson City, lodging options along the trail, and more. But stick with us in this series as we keep exploring the trailside natural history of this fascinating rail trail corridor.